Hello, and thanks so much for joining us. I'm Carol Jenkins. The program is Black America. Cycling, it can stimulate and improve your heart, your lungs, and reduce the risk of cardiovascular diseases. When the pandemic hit, you found that many more people were turning to bikes for safe fun and exercise. For my guest, it became the start of a new lifestyle. Joining me today is Andrew Bennett, CEO and founder of Good Company Bike Club, where they bridge the Black community through the love of cycling. Drew, thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, it's not often that we have a biker as a guest, you know, wearing a cap, and I'm told that this is a Lululemon bag.
It is.
Yeah, one of your sponsors.
Indeed.
And your this is great. So talk to us about the bike club, because you know the saying is if you can bike in good company, and that's where your name.
Bike Club was founded in 2020 during the pandemic. I was, as everybody was locked down, looking for an opportunity to, get outside, exercise, but, social distancing eliminated a lot of that space. But I've always been a cyclist, and I would just cycle and, on Instagram, just kind of recording myself. And every day I would notice people saying, next time you do a bike ride, let me know. It looks so fun. I miss biking. I have a bike. I haven't ridden in years. So I said, all right, let me put it on my social media. Meet me, Sunday, I think it was May 24th, pop out, and 17 people showed up. I did a nice ride through Brooklyn, kind of explored some different parts, and they had a really good time. And it was just like, same time, same place next week. Sure, why not? Nothing else to do. So 34 people showed up the next time, and it was just like a lot of positive reinforcement. Folks meeting new friends. It's really difficult for adults to make friends and like just genuine friendships. So there's a lot of good positive feedback, seeing the benefits of obviously the health and wellness component. So I decided to now make a separate account for the page, and I came up with the name Good Bike Club, Good Company, because while cycling was the focus, it was really about the testimonies and just the people that I was able to bring together. And I wanted to lead with the people and kind of have cycling just be the catalyst that brought everybody together. So Good Bike Club was formed.
Well, it's a terrific, for those of us who are looking for ways to get, and you've invited me to join your bike, as long as I need a bike with a motor in it, right? What are you're calling them e-bikes now, right?
Right.
And you said that's okay?
That's all right. All bikes are welcome.
All bikes are welcome,
Right.
And all ages and all,
Indeed. Actually, shout out to Will. We call him OG Will. Will is 69, and he rode
He's a kid, right. But he rides with you all the time,
all
right?
the time.
So now how many, you have, like you were saying, almost 200 people who sometimes will gather with you to ride.
Right. So I think it really depends on the type of ride, the distance. Are we riding for a particular event? So we do a lot of one-off events for like different topics or things of that nature. But on average, we probably say maybe 20 to 30 people per ride. When we do our Freedom Ride, for example, we brought up over 1,500 people. So it really depends on the ride.
Right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the Freedom Ride.
Okay. So our Freedom Ride is our annual event that we do, which actually got us kind of really going. Just going back to the origin real quick. It was 2020. Pandemic is going on. A lot of civil unrest. A lot of black bodies being murdered in the street. And when George Floyd was murdered, it was just like a lot of protests. It was just like really heavy. I remember like literally feeling heavy every time I was outside. And every time you'd ride, people like start throwing out their fists or clapping, and it wasn't a protest, it's just us wanting to ride. And I wanted to create a ride where no protests, like it's Black Lives Matter every day, but let's just get on our bikes and be free and enjoy Juneteenth and kind of like leave the protests and heaviness at home. So that's how we came up with the name Freedom Ride, an opportunity for everybody to just unapologetically enjoy being a cyclist, and a black cyclist at that. So 1,500 people showed up, and that's June 19th.
1,500,
right. Which is, that was June 19th, only about 3 weeks from our first ride. So just seeing it grow kind of organically was really beautiful, and that's why we continue to do that ride every year.
And so the Freedom Ride takes you where you always start at the Brooklyn Museum.
Correct.
The Freedom Ride takes you where?
Yeah, traditionally, we'd start at Brooklyn Museum, and we'd ride to Coney Island, and we'd ride back towards Fort Greene or Prospect Park. So we like to ride through some neighborhoods that may not necessarily see a large group of cyclists, just to kind of let people know that we're here and we bike too. and cycling shouldn't be restricted for any particular demographic, because cycling can be expensive, so you want to make sure we kind of break some of those barriers down. This year we're riding through Bed-Stuy. I'm going to definitely highlight some historical Black monuments and crossroads and things of that nature, and we're going to end at Herbert von King Park. And this year, again, it's June 22nd, Saturday, meeting at 12:30 from the Brooklyn Museum.
So do you stop at those places, or you just keep moving?
We highlight
stop
it.
And talk.
We highlight it. In the beginning, we'll kind of talk about the route and why we chose the route. But when we have that large of a group, it's kind of not practical to stop during the ride. But we ride through and highlight it.
It's really remarkable. I mean, and that you are doing it on a weekly basis, or
Indeed.
So it's every which day do we show up at
Yeah,
the Brooklyn Museum, and what time? I'm going to write all of this down on my calendar.
We advertise on our Instagram, Good Co-Bike Club, but generally Sundays at 12, we like to call it Sunday Fun Day, and that's a fun social ride, which will usually be to somewhere scenic. And we'll just, again, enjoy the good company with Good Co-Bike Club, right?
Right.
On Wednesday mornings, we'll have a little more of an intense ride because people need to get back to work. So we'll do laps at Prospect Park, or do a ride up the West Side Highway, so maybe do the Belt Parkway loop. But that's usually more intense.
And that's on a Wednesday in the middle of the day?
In the morning, 6 a.m.
6 a.m.
6 a.m.
Oh,
we get up with the sun.
And we're going to be riding on the West Side Highway at 6 a.m.
Indeed,
Okay,
indeed.
great. Yeah.
And then we'll probably do a ride on like a Friday or Saturday evening, which is just a little more social. But again, we post all of our rides on our Instagram or through our Discord, where we have our membership platform.
Right, and on your website, I was looking there. I mean, it's I love your team. Every member has a name for their bike.
Indeed.
And a mantra.
Indeed.
And your bike is Grace.
One of my many bikes is Grace, indeed.
Oh, I'm sorry. One of your many bikes is Grace. How many bikes do you have?
Oh, wow. I think I have 7.
7 bikes.
I have 7 bikes, but I've given away a few also. 6 or 7 right now.
Right. Yeah. So what is the so Grace is the name of one of them.
One of them.
Right. We'll say your favorite bike. Where does the name Grace come from?
So Grace was my first bike that I started riding during the pandemic, and there's a few different reasons why. One, my godmother, who's one of my favorite people, we call her Gracie, so that kind of rang in my head. It's a black bike, so for some reason, a lot of men name their bikes after women, and. And then I thought about the fact that my bike, it was a pretty tall bike, and Grace Jones.
Right, Grace, that makes right.
And
so
she's Jamaican, my aunt is Jamaican, and just Grace just kind of rang with me. So
and I noticed that not only do you have names for your bikes, but you have mantras, and your mantra is
the shortest distance between any two people is a smile.
Love it. I love it. Now, when you mentioned earlier that biking can be expensive.
Right.
So, and you've got 7 of these machines. So what's a good bike? What should a good bike cost a person if they want to buy a bike to join you?
Usually the answer would depend on my sponsor, but
right.
Well, we don't. We're actually looking for a new bike sponsor this year, but we worked with a few different companies in the past, so this would be a very genuine and honest answer. I think first I would always say good bikes ain't cheap and cheap bikes ain't good. But that being said, I think on average you probably want to find something that's around the $1,000 range, just because if you buy something that's really inexpensive, you're gonna love it and then want to upgrade the next year anyway. So bikes could really range. You could get something used for $400, which again, it depends on the, how old it is and things of that nature, but prices really, really fluctuate. Because I even got a bike that was upwards of $5,000. So
a $5,000 bike?
Exactly.
Okay.
So it could definitely range, but I would say not to get too caught up in the price, and just the durability of the bike and something that fits you.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And now Schwinn, we have a video that Schwinn made of you. I always loved Schwinns.
Schwinn.
When I was growing up, that was the only bike there was. I think, right.
They're definitely one of the oldest companies, if not the oldest bike company.
Right.
They make really high quality bikes.
Okay. Well, so they did this video with you. So let's take a look at that.
Let's take a look.
Okay.
Y'all can hear me in the back?
How do you like me now? How you like me now? How you like me now?
How could they ever doubt us?
How do you like me now?
We're riding together as a group.
How you like me now? Hell yeah. How you like me
Love showing.
I love it. And I was teasing you earlier about your Lululemon bag. You know, I was one of your sponsors.
Right.
Now, how did that come about?
So in general, even with Schwinn, Lululemon, it does feel, it's really amazing to just do good work and have folks reach out and want to partner or sponsor. And through Lululemon, one of my good friends, O'Shane, connected me with somebody who works at the company. And we just, had a lot of conversation, and they just noticed the things that I'm doing in the community. And with Lululemon in particular, they invested in me more than anything, just as an ambassador, as an influencer, somebody who does a lot for the community. So they'll help, fund and push a lot of my initiatives, particularly with Good Co Bike Club or Good Co Cares, my nonprofit.
Right. So we talk about your nonprofit. Let's talk a little bit about that. Clara Barton High School that you attended.
Indeed.
And I was asking, I guess it used to be an all-girls school, and now,
Yeah, I went to school there. I started in '01, and it's been a co-ed school since I think late '80s maybe.
Right. So for quite a while, but you've got to build a bike program. This
Indeed.
is part of so you have your bike club, and you
Right.
also have a foundation,
Right.
so to speak. So the foundation is helping Clara Barton students build bikes.
Indeed. So the nonprofit is called Good Co Cares, and I noticed
Good
that
Co-Care.
Good
I
Co
love
Cares,
that.
right?
Good
So initially, just even a little more origin, as I started cycling, just wanting to be on a bike, I realized that there's a lot of politics, a lot of things that we could do through cycling that is kind of in a nonprofit lane. No pun intended. So Good Co Cares.
I got it. I got it, though. Okay.
So Good Co Cares focuses on like the philanthropic things that we want to do, which is bike education, getting bikes in the hands of young adults, people who can't afford it, teaching people how to ride bikes.
I was going to say, if you're talking about a $400 bike, right?
Exactly.
So,
and we want to kind of break down those barriers. We noticed that one of the first things I noticed when I would just Google the word cyclist is that you see a lot of older white men, it's not really a sport or activity where you see a lot of women or people of color, plus size individuals. So we kind of want to break down those barriers. And as I mentioned, I went to Clara Barton, and I just know that a lot of public schools in Brooklyn are under-resourced, underfunded. So I wanted to support the high school that did a lot for me. So we start this 8-week Build a Bike program where students after school could just learn about bike mechanics. They'll get a certificate at the end of their program. They get a brand new bike that they build themselves, leadership skills, this teamwork skills, and it's a positive experience for them.
and how 8 weeks, in that 8-week period, you teach them how to actually assemble it.
Exactly. And I'll also say it's not only our program. I mean, we fund the program,
Right.
and we plan the program, but we also work collaboratively with Bike New York, who provided us with their educators.
And the kids get to keep the bikes.
The kids get to keep the bikes, exactly.
At the end of
Yep,
it,
yep.
This is terrific. I can remember my parents us trying to assemble my bikes for Christmas,
Right.
And never quite managed to do it the right way,
Right.
So I had really clanky bikes,
Indeed.
But learning how to put it together, because you often have to, fix it,
Right.
So
Exactly. So there's a lot of life skills that they're learning. So it's not just about the bike, but learning the different tools, just the hands-on experience. And again, it's just something different and an experience that they probably would have to pay for if they went anywhere else.
Sure. And I understand that you were the recipient of a Chase Bank grant. What kind of work were you doing for that?
Yeah, and again, just shout out to Chase Bank. That was something they just emailed us and they noticed us through our social media. Good Co Bike Club, got to plug that again. And we had to apply, but they really wanted us. They nominated us for this Chase Bank and New York Knicks. I was the grant recipient for that, and that's essentially just helping us to continue to work as an organization.
Right.
Because again, this is a part-time thing for me, we got to keep the lights on, so it helps us kind of fund our initiatives.
Right, and apparently during the next game, you guys were celebrated, right?
Indeed,
Well,
that was very special.
well, you're doing wonderful things.
Thank you.
I mean, and most of the people who are riding with you are doing it for the fun, the
Right.
exercise of it. But we well know in New York City, this is a mode of transportation for
Right.
increasingly a lot of people who can't afford cars or don't want cars.
Right.
And especially now that they will be fined, I guess,
Right.
for coming into Midtown. But
Right.
talk to us about that just as a transportation mode.
For sure. It's becoming, I think New York City is kind of going in a direction of becoming a more car-less city. And it's unfortunately there's sometimes a little clash between cyclists and bikers and even pedestrians. But I think that at the end of the day, we want to be able to commute safely. And I'm hoping that in the next few years with more bike lanes, which is something that we work with the city to get bike lanes in communities of color particularly as well. That we'll be able to work more collaboratively on the road and not fight for space. But I have noticed that there are less bike lanes in communities of color. So one ride that we do in particular is called the We Bike 2 ride to kind of promote that, communities of color also cycle. So Park Slope, Williamsburg, they have the bike lanes, but you go to Brownsville, East New York, Canarsie, and the streets are just horrible, so
Right.
kind of working with the city to promote safer streets. If you go to Europe and a lot of other countries where cycling is a part of modes of transportation, it just feels safe, like people yield for each other. There's not a lot of tension on the road. People aren't biking as fast. They're just, just
Right.
commuting.
Now, we were talking a bit about, before we started, about
Right.
the speed at which a lot of bikers are
Right.
making it through those bike lanes.
Right.
You really, and also the need for some sort of certification or
Right.
licensing for
Right.
bikers
Right.
that would make it safer for everyone.
Right. Yeah, I think we just have to change the culture around cycling in New York to just make it more equitable for everybody. Right now, there are no certifications or tests along those lines to cycle. Obviously, we're dealing with a lot of delivery folks on bikes, and there are a lot of disparities when it comes to even cyclists who are stopped. Lo and behold, if you could make a guess, cyclists who are stopped for tickets are more so folks of color. So again, that could get a little sticky if you start enforcing different rules, because it'll definitely be a disparity
Sure.
for folks of color. But if as I work with city legislation, we'd love to come to a consensus or figure out how we could just
So you are working with the City Hall
for
in
sure.
the legislation, so more bike lanes.
Exactly.
In neighborhoods of color.
Yep.
And some sort of training, certification,
Right.
and investigating police stops, I suppose, of
Exactly.
black
All of that.
cyclists more than.
All of that is on the table. So, Department of Transportation Alternatives, Bike New York, a lot of these organizations work with the city to just kind of talk about all of the above to make cycling just more a safer activity.
Right. And what about the kids who cannot afford bikes? What do you say to, the parents and the families? Are you doing some work in that regard?
Once we get bigger, this
Right.
is year number 5 as we're starting, I would love to figure out programs where students could just access bikes. One thing I would say right now in the immediate, Recycle a Bicycle is an organization that works with Bike New York. They're on Fulton Street.
Right.
And they have very, very, very affordable bikes because people donate bikes. So anybody out there, if you have an old bike, you can leave it on the street, obviously, but you could also donate it to Recycle a Bicycle. Nice tax write-off. And the bikes there are very, very affordable.
Really? I didn't
So-
know that. That's New York Bike?
New York Bike, it's Bike New York, but the organization or bike shop is called Recycle a Bicycle.
Recycle a Bicycle. All right,
Recycle a
remember that. If you've got a bike
Indeed.
that's just cluttering up your place, you can
Indeed.
actually get it into the hands of,
Exactly.
of people who can't afford the hundreds or thousands of dollars.
Exactly. So, and on that note, every holiday season, we work with Recycle a Bicycle to donate bikes to young adults and children. We work with the local cop and NYPD precincts or Brownsville Recreation Center, but we'll find a community organization, and we get bikes in the hands of children a lot.
Okay, great. Well, now, this is your part-time passion, right?
Right.
You actually have a day job.
I do.
And you're a part of the CUNY universe,
Indeed.
which we're happy to report at Gutman
Right.
College. You're in charge of student life.
Correct.
So tell us what that, I was asking you, what exactly is that? It's everything you describe it that doesn't happen in a classroom.
Right. I like to describe it as that. So Gutman Community College, Director of Student Life. So just, making sure that students are enjoying their college experience, because obviously academics are important, but, leadership development, being a part of a student organization, mentorship, going to events, just enjoying their college experience. I like to make sure that I facilitate that and make sure students have a good time.
So it's, and as we were just describing, these are non-residential. Most of the students are commuting from their neighborhoods, wherever they may live in the tri-state area.
Right.
And so how do you factor that in terms of after school, all of those kinds of...
Yeah, it's really important to one, assess when students are on campus and when they're available. So programs happen all throughout the day. because some students, a lot of our students, and particularly at Gutman, have to work. So I never want a student to decide. Obviously, go to class, but do I go to this program or do I go make some money? So, just being flexible, providing some online programming, so providing programs multiple times throughout the week. Asking students when is a good time for them to attend. Of course, having food at events always helps out because people got to eat. So
Right, and many of the Gutman students are food insecure.
Absolutely.
And so that is part of what you're providing to make sure that the students
Exactly.
actually have breakfast, lunch, dinner.
Exactly. A lot about, for me anyway, diversity work is about access and equity. So whether we're talking about cycling or just education, resources, just kind of breaking down those barriers and making sure that folks could have access to resources.
Great. So I want to go back to your biking
Okay.
experience. And so you started not only the bike club, but the foundation.
Right.
And where do you see all of this going in terms of, New York City becomes more of a biker existence than it does a car existence.
Right. If I could plug in something real quick, I
Yes.
just have to acknowledge my business partners. I have a lot of partners that we work with, but particularly Sherry Brown and Marcel, who we started the company together, all using our skills that we have in our personal jobs and apply them to Goodco. Sherry and I actually went to Cloud Barton together as well, so we go way back. And so Marv is our creative officer, so
Right.
all the logos, the videos, pictures.
Is this is the team we're looking at now? That's what a great shot.
Love that shot. So Sherry is our marketing director. She's great with our decks and reaching out to companies and making those relationships happen. And Marv does the videos and photography and all the website. And we work together as a team to make it happen.
Right. All right. No, so I'm wondering about the participation of women, girls and women in this biking. What
Indeed.
is do you know the percentages?
I appreciate you asking that. One thing that is unique about Goodco is we actually skew women in our membership. Women are always the first to show up to things. Y'all are great. Always, every time we do any events, it's like they show up first. I think they bring out the guys. So we actually skew women in our membership about 60% to 40 women. We definitely have in our captains. We have 3 women captains. We have 4 men captains. So that's 4 and 4 actually.
Right,
4 and 4.
right.
So we definitely try to be intentional about making sure that the space is equitable and everybody feels welcome. And we're doing a female-led ride in July. That date skips my mind, but we're doing that in July.
Go to Instagram or the website,
Or the
right?
website,
But for the female ride,
Exactly.
all women,
All women.
all
led.
women.
Led.
Oh, women-led.
Women-led
Okay,
ride, exactly.
all right. That will be something. But and tell us about the scavenger hunt. You have lots of events going on.
Indeed. So I'm going to answer the question.
Okay.
But, one thing again with Goodco is cycling is kind of secondary, but it's obviously a bike club. But so we do tons of events that just happen on a bike. So whether we are going to a black-owned restaurant or just a minority-owned restaurant, whether we're going to a movie in the park, we're doing it on bikes. And one thing that we did this 2020, the scavenger hunt, I have lots of fun ideas. I wanted to just introduce people to the city in a new way. So we had a fun scavenger hunt. Folks had to kind of decode clues, and they were all important spots in Brooklyn, landmarks, restaurants as kind of opportunities to highlight these locations. Last year we did the scavenger hunt with TPL, Trust for Public Land. It's a nonprofit that transforms spaces to green spaces.
Sure.
And they do that all over the country, and they do a lot of great work. So I'm talking in a long circle here, but
No, but it's all fascinating.
they're
It's great. Everything that you're doing is on a bike, right? We
exactly.
do lots of stuff, but it's
Exactly. all on a bike.
all on a bike.
So we worked with them to kind of highlight new green spaces in the city where folks could go to for free and have access to green space. If you look at statistics, folks of color, folks who are, low socioeconomic status just have to go longer distances to get to green spaces. So TPL helps transform those spaces, and we wanted to highlight that in the community. So all that to say, the scavenger hunt we did last year was to highlight those spaces that the community could access.
Well, I mean, that was worth the, and on our bikes, we can do it, right?
Exactly.
Worth the go around for that. That is
Exactly.
terrific. Well, you are doing wonderful work.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's exercise, and remember, we have to meet up at the Brooklyn Museum, and I'm going to be on my motorbike. No, I'm going to.
As long as you got a helmet.
All right, with my helmet.
Safety first, but motor.
All right. So, do you all? I mean, insisting on helmets or
Highly encouraged. You don't turn anybody away.
Okay.
But, highly encouraged, and I lead by example. So I feel like you should always have a helmet.
Okay. Wear your helmet. Have your bike.
Ride safe. Ride with traffic.
With traffic, not against traffic, and watch out for the senior citizens.
Exactly.
Drew, thank you so much for being with us today.
I appreciate it.
Our thanks to Andrew Bennett, founder and CEO of the Goodco Bike Club, executive director for Goodco Cares, their foundation, and director of student life at Gutman Community College. As Andrew would say, you could ride alone or you could ride with good company. How's that? That's it for us at this time. I'm Carol Jenkins. Thank you for joining us. The program is Black America, and we will see you the next time on our bikes.